Don't forget to suck some titties.
The NBA draft last night on ESPN was genuinely one of the most uninteresting, the most scripted, the most, I don't even know how to put it. That shit was just bad. And it's not because of the actual draft of the players or anything like that, because to be honest, I don't really keep up with the draft like that. I don't keep up with college basketball and stuff like that. Obviously, I know the main people at the top of the draft because of media and stuff, but ESPN has completely, and I don't like, and I know it's this trendy thing. I try not to be the person that just piles on. Like, ESPN deserves criticism for a lot of things. It has ruined the sports experience for a lot of people. And what's most annoying is I've never watched something and felt more of nothing. The panel last night of Malika Andrews, Kendrick Perkins, I think this girl named Andrea Carter, which actually I thought she was actually pretty decent. I'll be honest, I was a little skeptical. I've never really seen her before, but she actually at least tried to have some life into the show. Kendrick Perkins was just like an isolated person. He felt like he was just some person they grabbed from the fans and threw him on the show like, hey, what's your analysis? You know. And then Jay Billis. But Malika Andrews has completely, the direction of what they do with these shows is completely, I don't get it. I don't really know. Here's the notes I took, right? I knew from the jump, after the first pick, when they had in the team needs, I couldn't believe it. They had a team need to be health. What the fuck is Cooper Flagg supposed to come in and provide health for? Like, team need is shooting, size, athleticism, rebounder, defensive intensity, playmaking, scoring, rim protection. They literally put health. A generic is like, no, you just need not to trade your franchise player of a generation. Maybe that'll help. But neither here nor there. When the team need health, like, what kind of fucking need is that? How are you going to put that on a player? Like, you know, imagine you're going through your whatever, they're during camp and they're like, they have a sit down with Cooper Flagg or with these rookies. They're like, hey, you know, most importantly, the only thing I want you to focus on is health. And they're like, I mean, yeah, I know I need to take care of my body. Like, yeah, I don't care if you score. I don't care how many shots you block. But we need health. Great, because if all of us play 82 games, not Cooper Flagg's situation, but if all of us play 82 games in your assessment, we're still only winning 20 games, you know. It just, when I saw that, I'm like, oh, we're not even trying anymore. Like, Jay Billis is actually a good analyst. He's like, this is like his time of year for the draft. He's been better on the shows, on podcasts and stuff leading up to the draft to kind of help promote the draft. And then after assessing the draft, he actually seems like he has energy and he doesn't feel restricted. He actually can give an analysis. Last night, seemed like he was the only one that could legitimately give an analysis. And every time, and look, it's kind of a running joke that now the draft has turned into every time someone gets drafted, we got to point out some struggle they had to overcome, which is great and all. You know, I get it, but it's like the second someone gets drafted, as they're walking up, it kind of came off as kind of lack of awareness. It almost sounded like they were trying to, Malika specifically, was trying to make the moment something so sad all the time. It's like, it's supposed to be a happy moment. And everything is about, well, you know, everything he had to overcome. And it's like, damn, like, you know, when you reach these pinnacle moments, yeah, there's a time and place to remember what you had to overcome. It's like, just let them be fucking happy. Like, just a Debbie Downer. And it felt like the whole production was just absolute. It made you feel nothing. And you just rolled your eyes at all this shit. And it's like, the production is supposed to enhance the experience, the draft. The whole point of the panel and analysts is to entertain the people in between the draft picks. And it felt like it was 4 people forced to be up there. It seemed like they do not have a friendship or even an entertainment. They couldn't even fake to be entertaining together. And it got me to thinking because, like, back in the 2013 draft, I know that's a long time ago, but it's just a comparison. Jay Billis was on that same one, but on that same panel, we had Reese Davis as the host, Bill Simmons, and Jalen. Now, 2 of those 4 don't work there anymore. But to go from that to where, regardless of, at least you were getting one, you were always entertained. You never knew what Bill was about to go off about or who he was, what GM he was about to crap on. How, if there was a trade, basically, if you were a GM, if Bill Simmons was on, if Bill Simmons covered the draft, you might think about not making a trade because you don't want to get publicly chastised. There was this, the one trade where it actually involved Rudy Gobert. It was Rudy Gobert got traded from the Nuggets, I believed. And the Jazz gave Eric Green and cash, and the Nuggets gave Rudy Gobert. And he was just there, like, as the trade was being announced, there was like a 2-second pause, and Bill Simmons was like, what? And like, there was a preparation, like, you were excited to watch the draft. It didn't even matter who was being drafted. Like, that draft in retrospect was not even all that great. But the entertainment aspect made it to where it's a memorable draft because of the experience. And I was trying to watch the draft. Like, I actually looked forward. I actually did stuff during, like, I want to watch the draft. You know what? I enjoy watching these kind of things for whatever reason. And after each pick, I'm not going to lie, with this 2025 no attention span mindset, dude, I was switching between watching a baseball game. I was watching videos in between picks because I could not. They weren't even, like, trying to have a good show. It felt so they were trying. The whole goal was to not say anything interesting. It felt like a scripted Q&A. It didn't really feel like they were willing to actually talk about stuff. And maybe I didn't watch enough of the draft, but I don't know what. Maybe there's some, like, media rights stuff. Typically during the draft, NFL and NBA, they show, like, highlight clips of each draft pick. And during the draft, but it didn't seem like they actually showed any highlight clips. So you didn't even, like, get to see, like, highlights of these top players. Even though we've all seen them, but, like, show them. I could be wrong there, but, because I was in and out of the draft. And I stopped watching after, like, pick 8. Because I was just like in other drafts, bro, you could be watching, like, pick 16 through 30 means absolutely nothing for the most part. They're going to be a bunch of European players or a bunch of players that are going to be, like, in the G League or riding the bench and stuff like that. And maybe a couple of them spurred out. But you like the entertainment of at least, like, learning about something. Like, you weren't going to, if you didn't know anything about the draft beforehand, you were not going to know anything after. It was not for the casual fan experience, and it pissed off even the more diehard fan experience because the diehards seem to have more input than what they have input. Don't even get me started on the post-draft I don't want to criticize her, Monica McNutt. Like, after they get drafted, she's, like, interviewing the player about their post-draft thoughts and then, like, all that stuff. I'm not even saying she did a bad job, But from the production standpoint, they put her in a bad position because they put her in a lot of cringe positions. There was this one part where It was after, I think it was the number 3 pick, I believe. Edgecombe. And which I didn't even hear his brother talk, but apparently his brother has a cat voice. Which is like, people were flaming him, but whatever. Flaming. Not a great choice of words. But there was an odd part where she was trying to, after she interviewed, and she was going to take a picture, but they started walking, and the production team didn't really lay out. It seemed like there was no plan of, hey, this, then you do this, we take a picture. And they put her in a lot of cringe positions. And it didn't even seem like it was her questions. It felt like her main question was always like, we know your story about it. It felt like you're about to tell like a deep ass sad poem. We know your story about how when you were 13, this happened. Everyone told you couldn't do it. You were rejected for this. Everyone compares you to this. They always said this person's better. How do you feel to be drafted today? And they're like, I mean, I don't know. It feels pretty good. Like, it was like, it's an emotional moment for the families and stuff. But goddamn, like, making the whole thing so deep and sentimental for the viewer. There's time and places and there's a specific story, but when every story is this like crazy overcoming situation, it's like, all right, man. Like, if I wanted to watch, like, severe, I don't even know, and I don't even know a fucking comparison, man. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I think in next year's draft, I hope they really just need to do the TNT crew. And to be honest, I was more irritated with the coverage of the NBA draft than the NBA Finals. The NBA Finals didn't bother me as much as a lot of other people. I don't think Doris Burke is a bad analyst. I think Richard Jefferson is pretty new at it. I've heard him in other stuff. I think he's really good. It's just like, it's hard for anyone's like main first experience to be the NBA Finals, and all your flaws are exposed for everyone to see. But this shit, because you got a couple people up there that you probably have better options to put up there that actually give more input to at least be entertaining. And Stephen A, I know they had I didn't see him too much, but I know he had like his own like separate area. I think with Shams, they had their own little thing going on. But like, they need to do like the NFL. The NFL has it where like ESPN has their draft coverage, NFL Network has their draft coverage, and it actually creates a good competition where you need to be entertaining. You need to actually stand out, or they're probably just going to watch the other channel because people want to watch it. And if you were the only monopoly that's covering this on national television, and you feel like we don't have to do above the minimum, then people, if they're just like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't even want to watch this shit. There are more people that enjoyed post reactions of media podcasts that covered the show than the actual show. Like, there was 25,000 people. And that may not sound like a lot, but for a live stream for a Bill Simmons podcast, I mean, he gets a lot of viewers anyways. But 25,000 people watching you live is fucking insane. I know ESPN is going to get millions of people that watch the draft. I guarantee you the draft numbers were probably at a low. And I don't even care about the ratings like that. But I was just so... They just made it where everything was about something other than... It was about emotion and feeling more than just like, hey, can this guy play basketball? you know? It honestly didn't feel like Jay Billis was like enjoying it up there. Look at the contrast of faces and enjoyment. All you have to do is just look at, not even when Bill Simmons, like, they've had good coverages over the past 5 years. I would just pick a random, go to like 2021 when he covered the draft. I guarantee you, he cracked a smile. He enjoyed it. Like, body language doesn't lie. There's professionalism, and you can look like, because he obviously cares about what he's covering, but he's just minimized to after a draft pick, hey, give us a minute of basic analysis. And he has to dumb it down further than what he would have to. Because there's no one to relay. He has to dumb it down to a simple, because there's no one that could really combat him with anything. As crazy as that sounds. But, and just also another thing. This is but every time they said Con Nipple, I thought they were saying his name wrong. I think that is his actual name. And every time, it felt like they were emphasizing the nipple. I'm not going to make fun of a guy's name because my name could be made fun of. I'm not criticizing. But when it's a bad telecast, you got to find the enjoyment somewhere. So every time they're like, Con Nipple. And then also, he had a bunch of siblings, and they all had a name that started with the CRK. There's actually one with the name of Clint. His brothers were like Clint, Curtis, Craig. That was like, it's like, I don't know what it is with families and parents. It's like, especially like, maybe it's like easier in a weird way mentally for you to keep up with. And there's a rhyme and a reason. And then I understand religiously in some cases, but there's some people, man, it's like, nah, once we name one kid this, every kid is being named this. Knipple. I don't know why. I'm not making fun of the guy's name, but yeah, the coverage was absolute garbage. I've never been so disappointed in something that I had no expectations to begin with. I try to be open-minded. I try not to be like a lot of these other people where it's like everything ESPN does, everything a network does, that no matter what, because of this agenda they're taking and stuff like that, it's easy to just pile on ESPN. But when they do bullshit like that we witnessed last night, even people that try to like give the benefit of doubt sometimes, is like, oh my fucking God. It's almost like they're insulting, because since there's no one live that we could just flip the channel to, quote unquote, then they know they don't have to do anything exceptional. They're trying to be as milk, as vanilla toast. There was like no, and I'm not a big fan of just criticizing to make it interesting for the sake of it. But like a Bill Simmons being like, oh yeah, wow, yeah, we already have 4 point guards, let's get another. Like if Bill Simmons was on the show last night and the Brooklyn Nets actually used the 5 picks in the first round, the absolute absurdity of fun and jokes in real time, because he speaks for like, he obviously has a better understanding of the league and historicals, but he also has that still fan standpoint where it's like, I'm not an expert, but using 5 of your 15 roster spots in one draft in the NBA is pretty fucking insane. Like, if he was there, he'd like the petitions he would have started to boycott the Nets, and jokingly making jokes about, oh, at that time you traded KG, and like, I don't know. But yeah, it was bad. Really? Health? Like, what kind of, imagine you're going to these pre-draft meetings. Like, if you're like, I don't know, maybe it is something Nico Harrison would do. Who knows? You're like, what's your health like? And you're like, I don't know. I have a good diet. I take care of myself. I exercise. I stay in shape. I've never really been seriously injured. And they're like, yeah, we have another prospect we're looking at. he played all 35 games last year. You only played 31 to 35. It's like, well, yeah, I had a teammate run into me and gave me a concussion. It's like, I see. Well, we're going to pick the guy with health. It's like, okay. Now, obviously, it's not what happened with Cooper Flagg, but I'm just saying. That's such a weird, like, health is important, but coming out of the draft, like, if all is equal, I don't know. Oh, man. The point is that shit was garbage, right? But yeah. Welcome to episode, I don't even know, 351, 352 of the Offbeat Podcast with Clint Nelson. I'm your host, Clint Nelson. Don't forget to like, follow, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, most part, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to suck some titties. Yeah, that clip will be out tonight. Don't worry. By the way, thanks for the recent, I put out a clip of a podcast that's not going to come out for like probably 2 weeks. I put out a B. Simone clip and, it's doing pretty well. And for the guy that said, hey, respectfully, I can hear your lips smacking. You're right. This is what happens when your belly turns into jelly. Everything becomes harder to breathe. No Maroon 5 up in here. Which apparently, by the way, the reason why Adam Levine, like that first album was like all of them, shocker, their best work and their most connective work that people like, is because he didn't want to have to replicate it over and over. So that's when they started getting songwriters and outside people making their music, and it sounds like it. Not that all their music's been bad, but yeah. Speaking of, since we're on the topic of ESPN, I actually wrote some notes before the show. So there's a lot of speculation about Shannon Sharpe and how, from the looks of it, he might be out at ESPN. Now, all this stuff is really just, this taking time away is really just a cover up because they don't want to fire him for the public stuff or whatever. So, because, yeah, he really has his own things. He doesn't need ESPN. And there's some great points being made from other people where, like Dan Le Batard, where he's saying, Shannon Sharpe is one of those people, he actually does move the needle. He actually is one of those few media people that he's likable, but he's not trying to be likable per se. He's just authentic, which is why he moves the needle. Like he has perfected. Like on Undisputed, he was the king of absolutely just having some type of metaphor, some quote about some. I always had to do someone's grandma. Like, I can't think of one on top, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Like he was the king of those type of sayings, and it made his point signify more because they added humor to something that at the end of the day it's a sports take. It's not anything too serious, but when you push him to talk about real stuff, he could do that and be elegant and really actually sound like he knows what he's talking about compared to a lot of people out here. And he has the credibility of obviously being a former player, a Hall of Famer. Like everything, like no one, like he's one of those people you can't really say shit to. You can't say you never play the game. He's like, check again. Can't say, oh, you weren't great. Check again. You weren't a champion. Check again. You weren't a Hall of Famer. Check again. Oh, well, in this space, he's like, this wasn't given me because he worked at CBS for years, and he was just like, you look, and this is respectfully, you look at a compare and contrast of just his confidence on screen at CBS compared to now is 9-day difference, and it's just getting better with experience. Like he was just like another football player turned analyst, but we'll see how this works. And then now he is the fucking man, has 2 podcasts that are podcast, YouTube shows, whatever you want to call them, that have over millions of subscribers. Dude has his own businesses And he is the definition of like, you can say, and then now people want to nitpick his appearance, zesty, whatever. Who really cares? But all that being said, I think everyone was hyped of him coming to ESPN after what happened to FS1, thinking he's going to team up with Stephen A. Smith and First Take is going to be something that's never been before. And if we're really going to be honest about it, I think it's kind of been a dud. Not that he hasn't been good on the show, but also he only does the show sparingly, even during the football season. He was only doing it like, I think a couple days out of the week. He would do it the Monday and then maybe Tuesday and then like Friday or some shit. So it was not just like him replacing the 5-day-a-week role at ESPN. And look, they've had their moments. They've had probably clips that have gone viral, but it has not had near, I think, the impact that they thought it would have, if we're really being honest about it. And it really doesn't have anything to do with Shannon. I think it's really just, I think ESPN is kind of going back to the draft. It has really limited outside stardom to really thrive. Like, they don't really want people to move the needle. Because I think they're trying to go back to, they don't want anyone bigger than the brand type of thing. As they had Pat McAfee, who was an outsider, came in, but he still kind of does his own thing. And at the same time, is this balance of like, you're never going to really be bigger than the brand, but at the same time, you have freedom that the average ESPN employee or TV personality doesn't have. Which is a lesson Pat McAfee, Shannon Sharpe, and now Stephen A. But really, even Stephen A is more ingrown. Like, he did everything before ESPN, came back to ESPN, but whatever. It really goes to show, and this really just kind of goes across all industries, that whole growing inside the company shit, it's great. It helps create opportunity. It helps build a name. But you don't really have power and say until you can prove that you can do it outside of that. Notice how, Shannon Sharpe doesn't have to be here, and he's probably getting paid more than 98% of people at ESPN, and he goes to First Take once or twice a week. Pat McAfee, we're just going to let you do your own thing. Here's, our cameras, blah, blah, blah. You go do your thing in Indiana, and we'll just put it on ESPN. Cool. And he can say basically whatever the fuck he wants on his show. And with all that being said, you're trying to stay on topic here. I think overall, the Shannon Sharpe and ESPN's been a dud. I don't think it's had nearly the internet impact as him on Undisputed. I honestly don't even think First Take has had the same impact since Stephen A. and Max Kellerman. Because the show's different. Just look at, I'll tell you what, really. You can definitely tell ESPN and these sports companies, and I get it because it's what the algorithm rewards. It's what shorts reward and stuff like that. And it's kind of a shitty game you have to play. They're not even really, their goal isn't even to make videos or to make clips about stuff. And they don't even title it directly what it is. It's always these key terms of these extremism. They literally had a short, if I remember correctly. I saw it yesterday. It was Cardi B recording Stephon Diggs working out. And I forgot the exact title of but it was basically Cardi B motivating Stephon Diggs or something like that. And he's doing these chest fly workouts, prepping for the season. And in between, somehow in a video that's about Stephon Diggs working out, they make the video about Cardi B, who's recording him and is being, a fan, but like being supportive. And after each rep, she's like, yeah, that's good. You know, talking about how good he looks and all this stuff. And they made a clip about the football player that's working out, getting in shape. And they made it about a person behind the camera that you don't even see, who kind of made it about themselves, kind of ironically. And this is a side thing as well. They also made a post about something. They made a post about when Boston traded Drew Holiday and made a few other picks. And the whole goal of the post was to share about Boston just saved $250 million in these deals. Like, no one's saying that's a bad idea. But why the fuck do you think the fan base gives a fuck about saving $250 million? Like, those fans are the ones that saved $250 million. They made it like, oh, I'm supposed to pull down the Celtics president and suck his dick for saving $250 million if I'm a fan of his. No, Ime Udoka pulled out his for your wife. All right, sorry, a little bit too much. Yeah, that's how you get Kevin Durant. You show the organization who's boss or daddy. That was odd to say. I'm saying he showed them who's daddy, not me. It is weird, you know. It is weird how people just like completely. It's amazing if you can produce on the court, if you can coach a team to be better than any other coach they could replace you with. They'll forgive a lot of stuff. Like, think about it like this. I'm not even gonna name a bad coach. Just think about if. I don't even know, you know, I don't even want to put this in you. Let's just say the Thunder coach, right? Do you think if the Thunder coach were to do exactly what Ime Udoka did with Boston and have an affair with a co-owner's wife and stuff like that, you think that dude's having a job? One, he's going to be out of that job. But do you really think he's getting another head coaching job? Like, after that, Ime Udoka, like, not even after, like, a year, Houston Rockets are like, hey, man. Not only won a coaching job, I think he's just signed a pretty big extension, too, man. A lot of things can be forgiven. Except if you're Justin Tucker. If you're a kicker, you know, you start... Deshaun Watson could get $250 million, but not you. You're a good kicker, but not $230 million. Now, if he goes in a rut, we're going to know what was the secret weapon. But anyways, I'm sorry. Completely went off the rails there. But yeah, if we're being really honest, Shannon Sharpe on ESPN, it's been kind of just meh. It's not really a situation where one person did anything wrong or bad. But I honestly think it was more, it's a restricted version. And that's kind of also one of the weird things I think with media now is sometimes there is a good quality to not being seen too much. But now just kind of how media is when you do YouTube and podcasts and stuff like that, you're going to be overexposed to a point. Because you have to do so much to stay in the algorithm and stuff like that. And I think because he does his nightcap. He does nightcap. He does Club Shay Shay. He does a bunch of his own thing. And then I'm going to go on national TV and give a 50% watered down version of what people know I would really say. And people know they're not really getting the real Shannon because we see the real unfiltered Shannon in these other aspects. Just ask Jim Jones. I don't know enough about hip-hop to really comment on the Jim Jones and Nas stuff, but I'll just say, even I know. Losing your marbles there, Jim. But yeah. ESPN, you know, they get the leftovers of when everyone already like someone. And then they want you to be a restrictive version of yourself and expect people that already know who the real you is, and you can't tell them what to do because they got fuck you money. But yeah. All right. Here's also another thing. I didn't watch a video of this, but there was a video that came across my algorithm, Vlad TV. I guess he's doing a full interview with Adam22 and his beautiful, audacious wife, Lana the Plug. And I'm being facetious. Not that she's ugly, but you know. I think it's kind of weird how we always talk about. All right, let me restart. I think what the word content on the internet has done is if you attach something being monetized, being able to be taxed because it's legal now, we don't call it the same terms if it was real life. Like if you go over to your friend's house and he's married to someone. Now, you know they do some freaky stuff, whatever. It's not even that he lets his wife do what she does because she did that stuff before they met. But the fact that it seems like you've entered a business to where now you can financially benefit from this. It kind of seems, let's just be honest, it's glorified pimping. But it's disguised as they're married. It's content. And he's obviously doing a lot of rage baiting stuff to make people upset, to call him a cuck and all this stuff. And yet he is probably making more money on her doing this stuff than he got before. Because he's using his name to elevate her name, which brings more money in, which means he can get a bigger cut of that. So he's literally getting a big cut, as she's getting a big cut too. He's getting a big cut of her doing X, Y, and Z with whoever at that point in time. It's glorified pimping. But since it's hidden as it's classified and it can be taxed. And it just goes to show it's only illegal when it can't be taxed. Because really there's no difference of this than if you were to go on the street and someone's pimping out a girl. But this is just a more massaged, this is a much more business savvy, as people will say. As long as, and even in the title, apparently but she talks about making $35K a month on Snapchat. Which apparently Snapchat is a very underrated revenue source for a lot of people. But we all know what the content's about. It's Lana the Plug. What do you think it's about? But it's just odd because I think a lot of people, they're sitting there calling them cucks and all this stuff. And to be honest, he seems like a glorified pimp. But because it's business, because they're married and he's kind of making a fool out of himself, when in reality, he probably doesn't really care or love her that much anyways. So to him, he's not really pimping out his girl. He's just pimping out a girl who is going to do the same thing anyways, regardless if he was in her life or not. It's not like he took a girl who had an honest job or was just regular person, didn't participate in this stuff, and then all of a sudden now, 2 years later, she's doing this stuff because of his influence or his association with it. And so now that's what it's kind of turned into. So it's just odd because it really is glorified pimping. But it's a beautiful way of masking it. I don't know why. I could be wrong on that. I'm not educated on Adam 22 and his life like that. I'm aware of his show. I'm aware of his bankruptcy stuff, that anytime these rich, successful people talk about how they're bankrupt and stuff, you got to think, just because someone's bankrupt, it doesn't mean they actually don't have money. It just means that business is basically futile. It's no different than with the B. Simone situation. Her talking about how, she doesn't have the same, it doesn't, like, even if this investment were to go completely awry, she's going to probably be living in the same place she did before. But to her, it feels like the end of the world because of her reference point of what's been her life for a period of time. It's not as comfortable. And it's the first time numbers don't look as good as they did before. But she's going to be living a much better life than 99.999% of her fans are watching it. But she's going to have you believe that the way she's talking about it, she's going to be living on a beach somewhere. So, but nah, man, like, that's a weird thing with this. I've never been into Adam 22 like that. I've never understood why people who live that type of life would go on his show and basically out themselves and brag about it, knowing that with the history of him, Vlad TV, also an example, where they're coming on the show, they're getting promotion, but they're getting promotion that's going to hurt them more than anything. He's a Cuck Pimp. So, yeah. Successful Cuck Pimp, but lemonade. But yeah. Today was not a great day. I'm not going to lie to you. Something I realized about myself is stubbornness. What the fuck? Sorry, I thought I heard just a weird ass noise. But stubbornness. I'm going to use an example of me earlier today. By the way, I don't know if I said recording this on June 26, 2025 for the archives. It's around 6 p.m. Eastern. Not that it matters at this point of the episode. But I realize we want to be... It's odd because one of my favorite sports commentators, Colin, used to do this a lot more, Coward. He used to talk within his sports take. That kind of what makes him unique and stand out is he'll give real life examples and analogy. He's the king of analogies attached to sports takes. And he would always have this one when I was younger. And I always went by it. There are people you would rather be right. Don't be the guy that wants to be right instead of getting it right. And this week, I failed at that in trading. And it's not about trading. I know I talk about it a lot, but it's a big factor in my life. And it humbles you and it teaches you more about yourself every day. And I realize I've been so keen on everything being overvalued, markets pumping for no reason. And I've been the king of waiting for that short. And I keep trying to short. Doesn't work. Get out. Try. Instead of, I looked and I was like, in all this time that I try to make this market into my failed analysis, during that whole time, if I would have changed what I was seeing earlier, and all that time I've been waiting to potentially make that money, I could have just made the money on the way up. And that's the thing. Sometimes we are so determined to be right that you would rather wait for weeks and months to be right and get that one day where you're right instead of getting it right and actually being right for the period of time until that original analysis may come true. But there's more satisfaction. But there's almost like the whole goal of doing this is to make money, of trading. And yet, you've turned it into something more sentimental. Kind of like ESPN draft coverage. Instead of it being about the thing of why you're doing it. The whole idea is because you want to be right about something that everyone else is wrong about. You want to be one that says, no, I'm not going to buy the dip. I think you guys are overbuying this shit and you guys are going to get absolutely destroyed. And then you realize everyone's winning. You're not. And it's just a humbling moment that trading has taught me a lot more about myself than anything I've done. It exposes the absolute worst parts of yourself because it involves the things that affect a man's self-esteem the most. Money, winning, and being right. Those are like the three things for most men, and they all affect your ego. And when your ego is getting crushed day after day, bro, it's like a woman telling you you're not worth the shit. It's basically every day. It's like, fine, like the market is like a woman. I am telling you and communicating with you what is happening, what I need. And then you're like, no, I know what you need. It's like, I'm telling you, buy me. Let me feel like I'm valued to you. And then you're telling Microsoft, well, actually Microsoft wasn't too bad. But then you're sitting here telling Citigroup every day as it's just going up. You're like, no, Citigroup, I don't want to buy you. I want to sell you. And Citigroup's like, fine, we're going to ride this train without you. Then you're going to be that guy two years later, be like, why are you out here homeless? I didn't buy the dip on Citigroup. But hey, can you withdraw some cash out of that Citi ATM for the boy? You know? Maybe it's a psychological thing. Maybe because when you're broke, you want the banks to fail. Be like, yeah, I'm going to make money off your failure. And they're like, nah, we're just making money off yours. You're never going to win against these banks, man. So, but, yeah, no, I'm just a stubborn ass individual. And it's not that I'm stubborn to not change or anything like that. I am just stubborn to like, I don't want to change my original thesis. And then my thesis come true the second I switch up. Because then it's like, you have no balls. You don't have any conviction what you're doing. What the fuck are you doing? You don't deserve to be here. You know what? Just pull your nuts out and get kicked. Because that's what you're doing every day. Because you're afraid the second that you switch, everything will go against you. And that's what you don't want. It's really it's kind of like that... It's kind of like if you have relationships or friends in your life. You know, because you don't want, like if a girl is with a guy who's not worth the shit, you know, doesn't really have a great job, he's not making a lot of money, but she sees the potential in him. And it's like, she doesn't want to be viewed as the woman that left her man and he ended up doing amazing, everything that she wanted from him in that period of time. Then a year later, he's blown those expectations. He's making a great living. He's happy. He's living in the places she wants to live. And then she feels the type of way. Like, I saw all this in you. And she doesn't know whether to blame herself or like maybe that dude felt like she was the one holding her back. You know, there are people out there that think that. I don't really think that because I feel like there's not really individuals that can hold you back per se. Sometimes there's situations that add more to your plate. But if you really wanted to make something happen, you would be with someone that understands what your plan is and that would happen. But that's just me. And it's this people, there are people who, when they got with their partner, a guy or girl, they thought like, they're going to be a great mom. Oh, this guy's going to be a great father and all this stuff. And then they keep telling themselves, but they see all these signs like, I don't know. It's not looking like it. But they're like, he has these moments. He's great. When he's great, oh, he's the best. But when the video fucks him in the ass, you don't want to be around this guy. But we want the original thesis. We want to feel like I'm going to ride or die with this. And sometimes it works out. And for a lot of times, when something is telling you what something is, you should just accept it. And trading exposes that a lot of us just aren't willing to accept reality. That sounds deep and crazy. But I was like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, this thing has been going up for 6 days straight. You're trying to look for the exceptions instead of accepting the rule. Damn, that's actually a bar. And there are people out here in life where we always want to be the counter trender. We always want to be the ones that stand out. We always want to be the ones that think differently. We always want to think ahead of everyone. And sometimes, if it looks like there's poop in the water, there's poop in the water. So, yeah. But yeah, there's your lesson no one asked for the day. Now, I gotta be careful how I talk about this. Look, I'm a big fan of the O'Shea Do Jackson. Back at it again. Of the Dusty News Network. He be putting up some wild titles, bro. I watched his. It's weird to say I watched the video, but I came across a video where talked about how a pastor. I want to make sure I read the title correctly because I don't want to do it injustice. But it basically had to do with a married pastor who was exposed for let me find it. It's funny how you type in exactly what you're looking for, and for some reason now, here we go. Bishop let Wyan, I can't say what that means, bend him over, and this happens. Basically, I don't know why I click on these celebrity drama shit. Well, not even celebrity, but it's just whatever. There was a bishop of a church. Apparently, he was exposed by a creator who participates in certain activities that I can't say for the tube. And this creator exposed that he let his seeds in that booty. And the only reason why he found out I was a bishop is because he came across a live stream and it happened to be him. And he happened to be the pastor of the church. I don't know how that crazily happens. But I guess he felt a type of way to expose. It wasn't because the bishop came out and I think says something, but because he used to be in a church and he left the church to find greener pastures to do what he does. So he felt this deeper inner need to expose people. And look, there's two ways to look at it. I think there's a danger to just exposing people who aren't asking to be exposed if they're not really asking for it, if they didn't do anything to make you mad. But I guess if you've been someone like him who exposed this guy and you feel like you're being rejected from the community, you've been shunned on, you feel like everyone's against you, but you don't realize the same people that are preaching all this stuff are doing it 10 times worse than what you want me to do. But because he's wearing X, Y, and Z, he has the word of God. All of a sudden, he's sanctioned from this, but I've been rejected from the church for my lifestyle. Like, you know what? I get it. And there is some, like, to be honest. Like, if you're a married man, and I don't know if you had kids, but if you're a married man and your wife, it's one thing to cheat on your partner, one, because especially if you're doing unsafely, more risks of spreading diseases. And there is a effed up thing about your partner thinks she's with a straight man and then finds out not only are you not straight, but you've taken up the butt more than her in her life. You know? Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying. Booty cheek clapping sounds. I don't even know what to go on about this about. But there is a legitimate things like she does deserve to know, for one, because no one should be with someone when they're out here being that reckless. Like, you're putting her health at risk, especially, he said, spreading HIV and stuff like that, or AIDS or whatever. And that doesn't even apply to that. Like, yeah, STDs, whatever. It's just, I will say though, we do have a weird kind of culture in general where there's this heavy need to expose everybody in personal life. And this is what I like with the B. Simone stuff. Like, I know I'm attaching two things that really don't have much to do with anything. But people are always holding information on you throughout your whole life. Don't think that you do something bad or you do something behind someone's back, or don't think for a second you said something to a friend years and years ago, and even if they never said or hurt them and stuff like that, 5 years later, when you may be in need of something, they're going to remember that shit. And those subtle shades that people throw online against people, and they don't think that people pick up on that they know. They may not say anything, but trust me. Like B. Simone, when you start going through that similar stuff that you criticized people years ago because you were in a good spot, all of a sudden, now, people are telling you, oh man, you remember what you said? Get a job, you know? And that's why that's why it's important to have the same values and principles throughout the different stages of your life. Because, like, I'll even say for me, like, there was a period of time months ago, I had enough of a savings I felt good about. I felt like I had not a right or anything. Like, you always have an opinion to give out about something, but I felt confident about people who mismanage their money all the time, people who are lazy and stuff. And then, you know, sometimes you get a humble check. You realize, like, it really don't take much to lose it. It really, complacency, you have a lot more empathy for people that get in those positions. And I was never too harsh, but also at the same time, I never had the same, like, crazy empathy about it. I'd be like, damn, that's crazy. But I can't sit here and be like, guys, you have no idea what it's like, you know, because people will be like, remember when you said this? Like, you know what? You're right. But going back to the, you know, pastor and impastor, this exposed, like, I also can't really feel too bad for the pastor, because when you do things on the DL in general, like trying not to get attention about stuff, when you're trying to hide stuff and you go through avenues that are sketchy, like you're going to an OF creator who does things transactional for money, And you can't be surprised if they decide to expose you, because kind of immoral disingenuity kind of is out the window. And if you aren't what you preach, there's more of a reason, especially if someone has a history of something against the church. You know? I feel like I had a better thought process than when I said it out loud, but you get what I'm saying. See, now I'm not gonna lie. Hey, I appreciate that comment, because now I'm self-conscious of my mouth being too close to the mic. Pause. Good thing for editing. That's all I gotta say. Bada boom. Oh Jesus, this is a hot ass mess. Overall, I would say, obviously, I don't feel bad for anyone that gets exposed like that. It's weird because I don't feel bad for people that get exposed for doing things behind people's backs like that, behind his wife, especially in that manner, especially when you're living a hypocritical life towards what you preach and stuff. At the same time, I do feel like this is why if you gotta really, as fucked up as it says, you gotta do it. If you're gonna do something sketchy, you gotta do it with people that have something to lose by exposing it. Someone like him is only gonna benefit from exposing it. That is why, now think about it, this is gonna be a fucked up turn. This is why married people cheat with married people, because they both have something to lose. Not rationalize it, but it's like, hey, you could tell my wife, then your husband's gonna know, and vice versa. And we're all just pieces of shit. It's like we're in this constant cycle of just finding ways to quote unquote blackmail people, to hold against them in case they do anything wrong, in case they do anything that irritates us, in case we need to expose something. And I'm not really a big fan of that culture in general, but at the same time, if you just keep your ducks in a row, you don't do anything too bad that you shouldn't be doing. I mean, look, there's always going to be people on everyone's past. Like someone you dated 10 years ago that they really wanted to come out. They could paint you in a way. Oh, they were a bad boyfriend. They were dismissive. They always made me feel like this. They could use terms that are very loosely based and not really mean anything. Like someone's emotionally abusive, and sometimes people overlay those words in certain terms and stuff. And so, yeah, that sounded like I was talking about. But that's not, we're always just keeping data. We are all just data collectors of what we can hold against you when the time is right. Just ask Portia Williams and her divorce. There's nothing like people getting themselves in unnecessary marriages, getting divorced for obvious reasons, and then them being like, it was the hardest time of my life, and the husband, and then the guy's like, I wish I would never married you. Because it was obviously for financial purposes. Like, there's no and ifs or buts. So, whatever. I think I'm going to end it there. So, yeah. That was episode of whatever the fuck of the Off and Me podcast with Clint Nelson. I'm your host, Clint Nelson. Go over to like, follow, comment, subscribe, hit the titties. Yeah. Meet.